this is something he is
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Somebody told me we're on, so welcome to Backfire. This is Steve Hickson with John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey.
I used to say this is Steve Doughball Hickson. So
okay, this is Steve.
Well, he's lost a little weight.
Yeah, I'm losing weight.
He's been doing a lot of. He's been doing a lot of manual labor lately, and he's lost some weight.
I think I broke my finger doing that manual labor too. Anyway, I'm here again this morning, guys. How about you?
Apparently, we're here too.
We're here in body with Martin Spirit.
New format for the elections, John. Your idea that you like passed A and B.
I heard they were voting on that. I did not see whether they had passed or not.
I can't believe John keeps up with all the news, but except local, right?
No, I mean, I talked to someone and they said they thought it was going to pass. I just had not read the news to see how the vote went.
Well, let's explain that again, how that will work.
Well, it just means that it'll be like every other race in the in office holders. You will now be able to run against, and I don't want to say against. You'll be able to run for a specific seat. In
other words, if you're going to be a county commissioner in the 5th district,
right?
Okay, there's 2 of them running,
right?
There'll be an A and a B,
right? And so you have to pick. When you decide to run, you have to say, I'm going to run against Joe or I'm going to run against Frank or Susie.
I have a question. I don't know the answer to this. Can this take place in the next election, or does it have to skip one?
I know they can't.
They can't give themselves a pay raise.
Right, they can't do things that affect it. But I think this will be the next election, if I'm not mistaken. It says beginning with the 2018 elections. So that'll be the next time. And it'll be interesting to see where people line up at that point, because with the the top 2 winners, there was a lot of calculus involved. Well, I'm going to run, how do I run my campaign? Do I target one of the commissioners? Do I not target one of the commissioners? This will mean a straight up head-to-head race for these seats.
Well, it'll make it a little more interesting, won't it?
Well, I think it makes it a little more straightforward and honest.
Well, what do you think, Franklin?
I wouldn't say that the process was dishonest before, but I don't have any specific objection to what they've changed it to.
Well, the bottom line, the reason it was changed is to...
Well, there was an earlier proposal, keep in mind, that would have changed it to 9 districts, a single commissioner in each district, which would have done a couple of things. It makes the votes on the county commission a little less unwieldy. It also would have reduced the cost of the county. So there was a cost savings in going to that, but nobody wanted to do that.
I will say there's one potential negative, and that's not a reason not to do it, but John sort of touched on it a little bit. The way we were doing it before, it was very difficult to engage in a lot of negative campaigning against a specific person. Now, you really have an incentive to target that individual, talk about their voting record, and so forth, as opposed to just positively telling us the things that you want to do as a candidate yourself. Well, somewhat refreshing, if you ask me. But
yeah, but look, Franklin, this comes back to we've had this conversation before. There is a difference between negative campaigning and pointing out places you think a candidate has made bad choices. Negative, for me, it's not negative campaigning to say Joe voted for a tax increase. Joe voted, to increase the number of inspections that we do. That's not negative campaigning. That's just campaigning.
I wouldn't suggest that is negative.
Well, my point is, we conflate someone who says Joe's a scoundrel who runs around and cheats on his wife with campaigning that says Joe raised your taxes. Negative campaigning is when you attack someone personally for things that don't really have anything to do with the operation of their job. And pointing out someone's deficiency in their voting record and in their record in office is not negative campaigning.
Nobody would disagree with that statement.
Then
John.
I think it's a good thing to be able
But
to
that
actually
doesn't mean.
run.
But that doesn't mean you won't see more of the personal kind of attacks.
That's a completely separate issue. It shouldn't happen, you're right, but it has nothing to do with this.
I don't agree with that. I think you see less of that in the way we were doing it before.
You also see less actual information given out to the voters.
I don't know that that's true at all.
We do want to clarify that Joe is not a scoundrel and he did not vote for tax increases.
There's
Poor
no one-
Joe.
No one's been serving name Joe for a while as I remember it, so I thought it was a safe name.
Oh, Tom Crive's on the warpath about this VA home not being built in Cleveland. So, anyway, yeah, it's been going on a long time, evidently. But my question is, what is it sounds to me like there's been a lot of VA homes built in different places. So,
I'd be more concerned about the fact that we've spent a good bit of local money for something that may not ever happen.
Yeah.
When we've got other needs that definitely did need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'm not against that.
Is a VA home like a nursing home?
It's a
Yes.
yes and no. It's more of an assisted. At least what I saw of their, they were pods, and I think it was more of an assisted living type facility with nursing care.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you, I've always said we have a county nursing home that is run wonderfully.
I know.
I wouldn't have had a problem in the world trying to see if we could build a veterans wing off of the current county nursing home.
Yeah.
But that apparently didn't float anybody's boat, including the federal government. Apparently these things have to be self-standing, completely separate. I think that's stupid.
Does that surprise you?
No.
Why would they have to be standalone?
I don't know, but apparently that's in the federal regulations.
I guess they're afraid you might
I
spend
think the intent, good or bad, is to make sure that all of the funds expended get expended for the veteran's home as opposed to being used to support the other facility. Not the same thing, but a similar kind of circumstance at our Justice Center. We get money for housing federal prisoners there. That helps belay costs through the whole facility. They're attempting to avoid that kind of cross-pollination.
But it also
Whether
saves
it's good or
money.
bad, it's a different
I
question.
know, but see, that's cutting your nose off to spite your face.
It may save money, but are the savings going to the veterans in that case? That's the issue.
Well, if the savings go to the taxpayers who are paying ultimately for all of it, yes, of course.
Okay.
If you can house 10 extra veterans because you're able to save a bit of money by combining services, then yes, it helps the veterans.
What is the purpose of a veterans only assisted living
I think
home?
Franklin's right. I think instead of actually trying to manage the process, which the government doesn't do very well at anything, they just put these draconian rules that actually cause duplication of services and extra costs because they can't manage a process.
Why wouldn't they just let most of these nursing homes have things for veterans?
Well, now look,
assisted
I will
living-
say
assisted
we're
living?
unique in that there's only 4 county-owned nursing homes in the state of Tennessee.
Right.
There was 5. One of them has gone out of business the last little bit, and we're, I think, the largest. So we're a little bit of an anomaly in that we have such a wonderful county nursing home that functions so well. But that shouldn't be ruled out by bureaucrats because they can't open their eyes and see a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And you had local people that, to be perfectly honest, you had political things going on that nobody wanted to say that because it didn't sound as good as we built a completely separate veterans home.
I'm a veteran, but I really have never received any benefits from being a veteran. I've never applied for it. I'm sure I'm probably due some, but
Probably.
I've never really pursued that. But I don't know. I know in the assisted living homes, they have things for veterans. They have veteran programs there. They have people come up and
But Franklin's
do things
right.
for veterans.
They're worried about tracking the money. They're worried about, this money was set aside for veterans. We want to make sure this money
That it goes to veterans.
So they are worried about, but again, I think sometimes you can cut your nose off to spite your face.
Right. Well, I've always said veterans, it's a great thing to be a veteran, but there's other ways to take care of veterans. It's just like a veterans hospital. You've heard me say it from day one. I'm not for veterans hospitals. I think they ought to be able to go to any hospital.
Well, but that's really the same idea here. Instead of having a program that pays for the veteran to go to a hospital that's already up and functioning and running, we build separate facilities that then become government boondoggles.
That's right. Anyway, I think veterans ought to. I know the veterans get. They can apply for stuff, and the widows can have some money that goes towards use and some of these type things. I guess in assisted living, the cost would be regulated. I don't know.
Well, I'm here trying to research this on the fly.
Okay.
These go all the way back to the Civil War. They appear in all 50 states. They're subject to a whole bunch of regulations under the VA in terms of what care they provide. They have to be able to take residents to medical appointments. They have to be able to do all these other things.
All of
some
which
things
the
are
nursing
more.
home has to do.
That's right.
Well,
and assisted livings do it too.
I understand. I'm just saying.
As I remember the drawing, Franklin, I think it was pods that they lived in, and then there was a communal dining hall.
Okay.
There were some things like that, and there was nursing care. I mean, look, Tom, I understand him being upset. My biggest problem was several years ago we were appropriating money and spending money when we knew that this was a dangerous set of happenings that would have to happen for us to get this home.
Cleveland pledged $2 million along with a $3 million anonymous pledge.
Well, a lot of that's been spent. It's been spent on land and all that we may never end up using. And that has nothing to do with Tom's complaint that, we should have gotten approved. But my point is we weren't approved, and we already spent a good bit of money on it.
Well, anyway, Tom, getting them stirred up again, see if they can get it. When I was in the military, I was sick one time during basic training, and I got to go to the infirmary. But then I got to the infirmary, and there's a long line, and everybody that was sick was in line to get in the infirmary. Well, finally, after several hours, I was working my way up close to the line. Somebody came out and started sticking thermometers in their mouths, and whoever had the highest temperature got to go to the front of the line. Well, the infirmary closed at a certain time, so I didn't get in that day. So I had to go back sick. I had to be sick all night and go back again the next morning. And
hope you had a higher fever.
And hope I had a higher fever. And I did. Finally, I got put in the hospital. I had walking pneumonia, and they put me in the hospital. But this thing here, we're number 10, we're number 12, we're number 8.
And you know what you call what happened to you?
What?
Government-run health care, single payer.
That's exactly
That's single-payer health care.
But they came out and put thermometers in everybody's mouths. It was amazing, really. Oh, I was really sick. But life goes on.
Well, fortunately, life went on, but it could have not gone on under single-payer government health care.
Well, let's talk about single-payer a minute.
You just did.
I know, but I want to give you another version of single-payer. Right now, with Obamacare, as messed up as it is, okay? They keep saying we're going to end up with a single-payer deal. Now, I can tell you point blank, you're not going to get the cost down in hospitals until somebody negotiates these deals with them.
Well, that's the whole point of single payer.
Well, is single payer going to help or hurt, John?
You just described what happens under single payer. By the way, Great Britain, 2 years ago, I don't have the current last year's data, 1,800 people in single payer socialized health care in Great Britain died of dehydration. Those are people in the hospitals. These aren't people just out in the community. They were in the healthcare system, and they died of dehydration. That means they didn't get enough water. When you're not providing enough water to your patients for 1,800 people to die, you think you're getting anything above water?
You think any of them couldn't drink water?
No, they died because the nurses and the hospital staff neglected them. That's what happens. Look, we've got all kinds of problems with the VA. The VA healthcare system is single payer. We already know how it works or doesn't work.
Yeah, the VA system is not working. It's pretty obvious that. But do you think, I'm going to get back to this, do you think a single payer system that was run correctly couldn't help overall? Right now, let's go over what's happened. Obama thinks everybody ought to have insurance, okay? So they set it up and basically trying to give everybody insurance. Well, that's not working. But you can't take away what's already been given. I'm telling you, people with problems and so forth are insured now. And as a Republican, you're not going to be allowed to take that away. It's just not going to happen.
Well,
so how are we?
Well, we have single payer already. It's called Medicare.
And doctors are dropping out. It's harder and harder to get coverage, and you don't get very good coverage there either. I mean, look, if you want mediocrity, you'll get it. That's what you'll get. Everybody will be equal in their poor coverage.
It's a fascinating argument because you're always going to be able to find incidents where you say this is an example of it being poor. Do you think the VA
system is an incident? Let me finish my statement,
please. The facts are, though, if you look at those countries, on all the measurements for good health, they do better than we do. So what's the answer there?
When you say the measurements for good health, are you talking about cancer or things like that?
Let me address that because that's BS. Now he's not being dishonest, but the groups that put those numbers together, it's BS numbers. For example, if you don't treat someone with cancer, then they don't end up as a statistic that they failed if they die. So what those systems do is if you have a certain level of cancer, they just go, you know what, you're too far gone, we're not going to treat you. So you don't show up in their statistics as a death for treating cancer. We treat everybody. I'll give you a perfect example of that. We actually, according to the kind of groups that Franklin is relying on here, we have the highest infant mortality rate in the world. Now let that sink in a minute. United States has the highest infant mortality rate in the world of modern nations.
Of industrialized countries, the modern countries.
Do you know why? Do you know why we have that? Why? Because, for example, in Japan, they don't count a dead baby as a mortality if it dies within the first 48 hours of full term. Any of those European countries, if you're born a week premature, they don't count you. So if that baby is born 3 months premature, they sure don't count that. We count everything. If a baby is born 5 months premature, we count it. And if it doesn't make it, it's listed as an infant mortality. So we're honest about our health care. They're not. And that's where those numbers that he's quoting come from. They don't treat half the people.
Here's what I know, and John knows what I'm saying is true. The single-payer system, we'll just use Britain and we'll use Canada, the two closest people to us, is overwhelmingly popular with their populations.
All right, let me ask a question about that. If it's so overwhelmingly popular, why is Great Britain passing a law as we speak to not allow people to buy private medical care? Actually outlawing the purchase of private medical care. If it's so popular, Franklin, they wouldn't have to pass laws outlawing it. Why would one of the leaders of Ontario leave Ontario, come to Chicago to have his heart surgery done while he was criticizing us, the Republicans who were against Obamacare? He came to America to get his care instead of the socialized system that Canada has.
John, let me ask you a question. Why doesn't the politicians have the same health care benefits we have?
Because unlike what Franklin's trying to sell here, it's not any good. Why do you think all of the main progress that happens in medical discoveries, why does it happen in a capitalized free market America rather than socialized Europe?
With all due respect, that's not true either.
The vast majority of it happens here.
Well, that didn't answer my question.
What?
Why are the politicians on a separate health care program?
I answered your question because they don't want the care that they're telling us is okay isn't good enough for them.
Well, then why are we settling with it? Why did we settle with it if we're not forcing
because
them
we got
into it?
think tanks and all telling us that it's going to be great. But we've got evidence right in front of our face. Canadians cross the border every day to get health care out of the government system that they have.
All right. We're trying to fix our health care system right now.
No, we're not. We're trying to take over a section of the economy and manage and control it. We're trying to expand the size of government. That's what this is about. It's not
That's
about
what John
healthcare.
believes. There's no doubt he believes that.
It's not about health care.
What do you think,
You ask a very valid question about the cost involved. All right.
I've never seen anybody talk about cost.
They just released the information for this previous year. Profits for health insurance companies in America were up 46% last year. Now that's with Obamacare in place.
What's their profit margin, Franklin?
I don't know the answer.
Of course you don't know the answer.
46% compared to the year before.
Profit. Do you know the difference in
Yeah,
profit
I
and
know
profit
exactly
margin?
what you mean.
Well, that's the game you all always play.
It's not.
It is a game.
No, the point is,
Walmart has huge profits, but their margin is about 2%.
the point is, it's a myth that these insurance companies are losing money. Now, we could have a million different ways of addressing that, but don't tell me that that's not a factor in what's going on here, and that they're not driving this debate. to a
Well,
great extent.
unfortunately,
They are.
I'm one of these Cro-Magnons that actually understands that profit motive is what made us the greatest country in the world with the highest standard of living in the world. People like Franklin take that for granted, and what they will do is they will kill the goose that laid the golden egg, and by the time the general public figures out how horrible this has been, we'll be too far down the road to reverse. There are certain things you can't undo. You can't unring certain bells. Just like you said, once you start giving something to someone, you can't take it back.
Well, how are we going to fix Obamacare?
Well, first off, it's failing. New numbers are out again. Still failing.
Okay.
And they're lying. You talked about taking it away from people. The 23 million people, that's just BS to begin with. For example, we now know that 10.3 million people had coverage, affected their coverage, for February 2017. But the CBO actually reports 2 or 3 million higher number. So half the people they report don't actually end up paying for the coverage. It's always lower. Right now, they are still saying that we should have, I think it's 19 million people on it. We have barely 10 million. So the CBO number that estimates the 23 million, it's probably about half off. We're actually probably at around 11 million. And when they talk about these people that are going to lose coverage, huge chunks of these people are going to choose not to buy it because they were forced to buy it in the first place. That's not the same thing as being denied coverage like the Democrats and the news media say. If I make you buy something and then they repeal the law making you buy it and you don't want to buy it, I didn't take anything away from you. I allowed you to choose to not to do it.
What I know is that roughly 90% of the people in America, Democrats and Republicans, think that there are certain issues we should address.
Like?
The pre-existing condition exclusion.
All right, I think
We addressed that.
No,
I think-
they
I
really
think-
haven't addressed it.
I think they have.
Now, what they've done is create a system where they're going to be able to make the cost exorbitant for those people,
It's
so that they won't be able to keep
exorbitant for everybody. And Franklin, I hate to break it to you, but that is kind of life. If you're the one who...
I think John, without saying anything more, John has totally
You're right.
eliminated the debate there. I think
what
that's
I'm saying
I'm
is
not even criticizing.
there are certain things in life that are just life. And Franklin, for your information, one of the best examples of what you're talking about, of this egalitarian, we all ought to be equal society, is Venezuela, where the entire population is equal in starving to death because of socialism.
Okay.
How are we going to fix this mess we're in, John?
Well, I will say, I actually think and I personally find it devious.
The Republicans are going to come out with something. I don't know what they're
it's going to
coming
be hard, and there's a good chance that there will be a backlash at the ballot box against the Republicans, because it is going to hurt. Franklin's right, but I actually think that the President Obama was devious about this. I think he knew that if he could cram this down our throats and get it kind of in the stages of going, that it would be almost impossible to undo. And I think
that's exactly right. They said it.
I think he hoped it collapsed, which would lead to single-payer socialized medicine. You've already seen about a 40% decrease in the new drugs in the drug pipeline because of all the things that have happened to the drug companies. Now, he's going to talk about profit again. There's a difference in profit. Yes, they have changed all the regulations. They have gone after their patents. They've done all kinds. Around 1,000 drugs are produced every year to get one successful drug. They lose billions of dollars on these drugs, but when they have the one successful drug and they start making profit on it, then people on the progressive left, like Franklin and all his buddies at Mother Jones and places like that, they start going, oh my God, look at how much profit they're making on that drug.
Because we think there's something immoral about...
What about the 1,000 drugs they lost money
sentence,
on?
John, just one.
I guess.
Take a drink of water or something for a moment.
Go ahead. Get your sentence out.
We do think it's immoral when one company controls EpiPen and they raise the price in 3 years from $200 to $800 for an emergency EpiPen.
But one government controlling EpiPen will be better? One government.
That's not what we're talking about.
You just made
we're
a point.
talking about there being
you made a philosophical
more
point about
options
one.
for people
there
to buy
won't be more options. You just said you want one government to control it. You said one company controlling it is bad, but one government controlling it's not?
Well, the government wouldn't have a profit motive to jack up the price.
And you think they don't have a profit motive every time they... You think the city of Cleveland, when they're proposing a 23-cent tax increase, doesn't have a profit motive?
That fundamentally in your soul... You believe that everything government does is evil. I get that.
No, I don't. That's you all using the word evil.
Statement.
I think it's bad. I think it works out bad.
It's bad.
There's a difference in bad and evil. There's a complete difference in bad and evil.
Now, let's have the definition of bad and evil.
Bad is an outcome. Bad is something that wasn't good.
Okay.
You did something, it didn't work out right. Evil is an intention. There's no intention on bad. And now, look, y'all were laughing about this.
No, that's a pretty good explanation.
You want to know why we got Republican congressmen shot? Because Franklin and the progressive left label you evil if you don't agree with them. There's a difference in saying your policies are bad and saying your policies are evil.
Really, John?
And evil leads people to
John?
We should stop that.
Really, John?
Yes, really, Franklin.
When you invite people to the White House who've said the President of the United States should suck on a machine gun?
Go on down that road, Franklin, because I'll read you 20 calls right here since the shooting from your liberal buddies saying kill them. Kill the Republicans. You've got a New Jersey Democrat strategist who put out an actual map saying #hunt Republicans.
Here's what I think.
He did it last week after the shooting.
Here's what I think, John. That's horrible.
It's
shameful.
Joy Reid said,
you know what?
Steve Scalise is a racist, so he deserved it.
And you know what? They ought to be held accountable for that. But I wish you had the backbone and the morality to make that same charge the last 15 years when the right was peddling the garbage they've been doing.
How many times has a right-wing shooter killed Democrat congressman? It's all been liberals, Franklin, that have been doing this.
Here's what I know.
Montel Williams, Michelle Bauman, slit your wrist. Go ahead, move the knife up to your collarbone.
Let's talk about your biases. Did you see any irony in the fact that a black lesbian police officer saved that Republican's life?
Yes, actually, I did see some irony. You know what the irony is?
The irony is that he's the one.
No, wait a minute. Let me say what the irony is.
No, he's the one.
The irony is that a woman doing her job.
Every legislation they could to stop that woman from living her life.
Listen to what he's saying, folks. He got what he had coming. That's what Franklin's saying.
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, it is. It's exactly what you just said. And let me
You're so
show you
full
the
of
irony.
it.
Let me show you the irony that you just did. What I saw is a police officer reduced to
That's
her
right.
sex and her race. Your people were racist and you were sexist to even bring that up.
That's a police
Racist
officer
and
that
sexist.
shows the bigotry.
No, it's a
in your
police
party.
officer. End of discussion. You people brought race and sex into it because you're racist
That's
and
right,
sexist.
because I cheer that woman.
I cheer her because she's a police officer.
I cheer her
Plain
having
and
the
simple.
rights that
Police
everybody else
officer.
in America
Police
has,
officer,
while your
plain and
party
simple.
tries to
Wait.
take them away
You
from
reduced her to her race and her sex.
Wait a
her.
minute.
The party is full of bigots.
Think about it. You know you did it. You reduced her to race and sex.
Well, why should we have even mentioned she was a police officer?
Because that's what they
there is an
operate on.
irony in her saving this person's life when he spent so much time trying to make her life worse. I give her all the credit in the world because she busts every stereotype
Because, you know,
John and his right-wing
Obviously, he
zealots
doesn't
have.
expect
They
much out
think-
of black
they-
lesbians.
That's right, because
You don't expect them
think,
to do your
you
job.
think that those people are evil.
No, I think
they're
that they do their job, and I think what they do in their
unconstitutional,
bedroom doesn't make any
un-Christian,
difference.
And they're bad for America.
Well,
That's
you know,
what
Franklin,
think.
you and Bernie Sanders wouldn't let me serve in the government because of my religious beliefs. That's called a religious test, but y'all don't have a problem with
What
it anymore.
are you talking
Hold
about?
on
I'll
just a
read it
minute.
to you.
Hold on just a minute. We've got to take a break, but I just want you to remember she was getting paid. to do it.
Absolutely. She
Okay.
was doing her duty and her job.
Which is the end of the discussion.
Let's take a break.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
Hello. I'm the doctor.
And you're listening to WOOPLP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Another SOS, and you're stressing, and that's the time to check in. I check into cash, check in. When you have a cash emergency, you check in. We understand the urgency. Check in to get your loans and more. You gotta check in with your check into cash. Walk in, call in, click in, go all in. Check into cash in, check into cash. Your one-stop money shop. Check into cash.
Guns, guns, and more guns. That's right, folks. U.S. Money Shops has just received a large shipment of pre-owned Glock 22s, 23s, and the awesome Beretta 8040D Cougar. These guns are law enforcement trade-ins that start at just $379.99 while supplies last. At U.S. Money Shops, there's no shortage of guns, so if you're looking for a great deal on a newer pre-owned gun, then check us out first.
Buy yourself a gun today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Visit usmoneyshops.com for the location nearest you.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right. Every Saturday.
from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
Every Saturday.
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
Financial Recovery, licensed and bonded collection agency, located right here in Cleveland, Tennessee. Give them a call at 423-473-7670. Small town service with big city results. A full service medical, commercial, retail, and individual collection service. Celebrating 10 years in business. Call Financial Recovery at 423-473-7670 to help you with your accounts receivable and past due invoices. Financial Recovery, 423-473-7670. Are you unhappy with your current television service provider? Whether you're on cable or a direct TV satellite system, well, call Tech-Centric Installation. That's Dennis at Tech-Centric Installation, 2398 Blue Springs Road, right here in Cleveland. He is now your local retailer for Dish Network. Why call another state or sign up from some telemarketer calling from who knows where when you can talk to someone right here in Cleveland, shake his hand, meet him, set an appointment, find out why his 15 years of experience will create the perfect package for you. Don't pay too much and don't have to pay more down the road. Dish Network right here in your backyard with packages starting at only $55 a month with HBO free for 12 months with a 2-year price lock. So if you want to get your new updated, great state-of-the-art television service package, get it right here from Dish Network now with your own local person in Dennis Powell, or we call him Dish Dr. Dennis at Tech Centric Installation, 2398 Blue Springs Road. Call him now, 834-9933. That's 834-9933. Ask for Triple D. That's Dish Dr. Dennis for your Dish Network home entertainment needs. 834-9933. Call Dennis at Tech Centric Installation.
Why would you put up with a heating and cooling system that cycles on and off when you can have quiet, true comfort, variable speed by train? It runs at low speeds with continuous little adjustments to keep your home comfortable and quiet. It's always been hard to stop a train. Now, it's hard to hear one.
When you want an unconventionally efficient heating and air unit that keeps your home right in the comfort zone, day in and day out, nothing will do but a Train. To get the best Train service, call your local Train comfort specialist. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. Keeping you comfortable is Mechanical Systems' only business, and they've been providing high-quality service and installation for more than 30 years. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. That's 336-5739.
It's hard to stop a train.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, I'm going to open up with a House Bill 508. David Benton called me, and he was wanting to know more information about this. I've got something I printed off, but I really haven't had time to go through it. And it's, John, I think you could probably explain it a little better.
Well, no, I just scanned it, but as I understand it, it's really more about immunity than it is about being able to increase carry rights. It says that if you're legal to carry and a government bars you from doing it in a certain building and you're damaged by that, if there's an incident, then their immunity is waived unless they provided a certain level of either gun scanning technology or armed guards in there. So basically what it's saying is the government can't create a safe space and then not provide adequate protection in that safe space.
Well, would that go along with any other business?
Everything I read seems to be dealing with government.
So let's say in private business that if we didn't want our employees here carrying weapons, we tell them they can't carry weapons to work.
I don't think that changes anything.
So if something should happen because we didn't provide security,
right,
we would be subject to
not only that, it defines what the security has to be.
Right.
This says they have to have, it's not either or, a metal detection device, a law enforcement or private security officer who's been adequately trained to conduct inspections of persons entering the property, and that the person enters the building through the public entrance when the building is open to the public, and any bag, package, and other container carried by the person is inspected by a law enforcement or private security officer.
Here's what it's saying. That's basically what they do at the U.S. Capitol. That's basically what they do at the state Capitol. So what they're saying is if you're going to tell me I can't carry a gun to protect myself, then you have to provide that same level of coverage that you provide the government.
So this is a bill basically to open it up more where people say you're not allowed in here with guns.
No, what it does one of two things.
It says at its most basic level, if you want to keep people in there, you're going to have to spend more money.
Yeah, if you want a safe space, it's got to be a safe space. In other words, what we've seen on almost, really, I think almost every mass shooting that we've had is that it had signs up that said this is a gun-free zone. Well, guess what? The sign is the only move that the government did. It said, okay, don't bring your gun in here. Well, the law-abiding citizen says, all right, I won't bring my gun in here. The crazy guy comes in and kills a bunch of people. So what this bill is basically telling the governments, if you're going to create a safe space, we want truth in advertising. It better be a safe space.
All right.
Interestingly enough, the enforcement remedy is lawsuits.
Lawsuit. What happens?
You don't think that was designed by an attorney, do you?
No, I
well,
don't.
No, but here's
but we see this a lot, and I don't even know what John's position is on this. But when I say this, what I see a lot is the very people who say there are too many lawsuits out there are typically the people who will push legislation like this, which creates private enforcement of statutes rather than the government enforcing it.
But Franklin, here's the problem. You all created the environment that we live in, and if you're going to play the game, you have to play by the rules you're given. And in this particular case, this isn't creating a place to sue. What it's doing is it's removing the immunity. So, in a way, I can't imagine anybody really opposing this. I can't imagine you opposing it, Franklin, because what it's saying is you don't get to create an environment and then be immune from the consequences of what you created. And that's all this says.
I'll tell you exactly what it means. And you stop and think about it. Okay? This means if you want a school to be a gun-free zone, you've got to install this extra security there.
That's true. I'll take it too.
That's true.
That's where you're going to see the most expense because you've got 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 schools that you have to deal with there. So that means there now has to be a security officer there. There has to be metal scanning technology there. And they have to search bags going into your kid's school now.
And the
if
problem
you want
with
to
that
have
is
a
what?
gun-free zone.
And what?
And the problem with that is what?
Well,
Maybe
decide
we
that
won't
for
be able to
themselves.
afford an indoor tennis court, but maybe our schools will be safer. Look, what it's saying, it's saying is that if you're going to create a supposed gun-free zone, it better actually be a gun-free zone.
Well, that's going to end the law here right away, isn't it?
Well, you've got there's actually two ways to go about this. You can not make it a gun-free zone, or you can actually make it a gun-free. What this sort of does is it sort of forces you to actually walk the walk and talk the talk. If you're going to say, we as a government are going to create this safe space for you, then by God, it better be a safe space. Mm-hmm. If not, then you need to allow me to protect myself.
All right. New polling, I'm sitting here looking at something from MSNBC. New polling shows Trump's support slipping amongst Republicans.
Yeah, there's a new Rasmussen poll that shows him up.
Well, okay. I was fixing to say the polls didn't work in the elections last night, did it?
The poll average that Real Clear Politics does, which is not one poll being cherry-picked, right, has Trump's favorability rating at about 40%.
Which is about the floor
and
where he's been.
And his negative rating at about 52%.
Well, it's amazing.
Just a fact.
I agree with you, but it's amazing the negative rating's not any higher with the wall-to-wall negative coverage that he gets.
I
in the
have
media.
never seen anything like.
Well, look, you've got
coverage.
Alan Dershowitz was on this morning, liberal New York Democrat, and said if my party, the Democrats, don't stop what they're doing, they're going to suffer for it. He said you've got to allow a president to actually act.
I think the election they had in Georgia and South Carolina yesterday showed that.
Well, she was not a good candidate, but there's a lot of lessons to take away from Georgia. They talked about, what lessons with it. I think the number one lesson that it reinforces is that the Democratic Party is absolute experts at wasting tons and tons of money. Mm-hmm. They can waste more money on frivolous, losing propositions than anybody, and that's what happened in Georgia last night.
What happened in Georgia?
How much money did they spend?
They spent around $30 to $40 million.
Yeah, Lord.
What it showed is, first of all, let's not forget, this is Newt Gingrich's congressional district.
Okay.
So it's a very conservative district.
Uh-huh.
All right. So cheers to them for winning it. But what you also saw is a fairly substantial amount of anti-Trump vote. It was not a pro-John Ossoff vote.
He won by 6%.
He got the same floor that Hillary got. He got almost exactly the same vote Hillary got.
Okay, that's the previous election when Tom Price, who's the new HHS secretary had the race. He won by 23%.
You're right. And it was also during a regular election, not a special election. Karen Handel's not the best
And they
candidate
didn't put
in the
in
world.
all this money.
And they didn't spend that
Okay.
kind of money.
I am just
Which,
telling
you know, Franklin, if you're saying that, look, we weren't going to win anyway, then it shows how bad judgment y'all use in spending $40 million.
Stop putting words in my mouth. Look, I would think you would agree that the president's problem is he can't get out of his own way. And he makes it easy for people to be critical.
I'm trying. I don't disagree with you about that, but I am also trying to stay on message with you all. And I don't understand, because I thought big money in politics was the main problem. When this boy received 7,200 donations from California and only 800 from Georgia, that sounds like out of district interest buying a congressional seat with big money.
That's exactly what I'm opposed to.
Well, that's your people.
I'm opposed to it when anybody does.
It's the largest in history. Your people.
Which part of that was not clear?
But my point is, your people did it. You're always saying it's us, big money Republicans.
John, I want the system changed. Until the system changed, it's not going to do any good for either of us to say, oh, this candidate spent too much outside money on his election. They did spend too much outside money on the election. There's no question about that.
He couldn't even vote for himself,
Okay,
Franklin.
That's fine.
You all ran a guy that didn't even live in the
I'm just
district.
telling you that is not a good thing for American democracy.
Well, let me ask you, is he going to move into the district because he loves those people so much now that he
I don't
lost?
have any idea what he's going to do.
Well, I'm just wondering if he'll move there since he loved them so much. By the way, we're having three different...
Well, he was from there.
We're having three different... By the way, his company did work for some of the Muslim fanatic groups in the Mideast, too. But, you know, hey, he kind of kept that on the down low. We're having two congressional and one federal investigation of Russian meddling in our election.
Okay.
Well, shouldn't we investigate California meddling in Georgia elections? Isn't that kind of the same thing?
Okay.
Not when it's out. Not when it's out in the open.
Okay.
You know, John wants to come in here and say, "Oh, well, the Democrats are crazy. They can't get off this Russia thing."
I don't want to say that.
You
but
know
it's
what?
The truth.
You know what? What the Republicans ought to be doing is turning the focus on the hacking attempts by them, because it's a serious issue.
I agree, but frankly, it's your people that won't let us focus on that.
That's simply not true. They just have avoided it at all costs, and what they end up doing is creating this firestorm that could be avoided.
Well, do you think Trump made a good decision by having that technology meeting? He just got through bringing all the people in to talk about changing.
Which, by the way, tech stocks went up about 150 points this week.
But to try to bring in some new technology to help run America and maybe change some of the things.
Help run America? What do you mean?
Well, the systems in America. How about the IRS? Do we need some tech changes there?
No, we need to get rid of them.
That's right.
Well, we need to be able to simplify it for sure.
Do you think that some tech changes might keep our systems, our internet
Well, it
elections?
depends. If you put Lois Lerner in charge of the tech systems, then they'll persecute more Americans.
All right, let's talk about some of these investigations again, just for a few minutes. We've got, the special FBI, Mr. Mueller, in charge of the investigations now?
We just appointed another, actually a lawyer who was actually a Clinton Foundation attorney.
I mean, is this not obvious that it's just one-sided? Does that not seem...
It's not the one-sided. Look, I think he's an honest man, but he has conflict. He himself is in violation of the statute for appointing these people. He has a direct personal connection to one of the main witnesses. And that's actually in the statute that you're not supposed to serve as special counsel if you have that. Well, Franklin, I would ask you as an attorney, do you not have some
first
problem
of all, I'm
with
not
those
sure
kind
that that's the case, number one. But number
What's the
two,
case?
who appointed him?
Rosenstein.
Okay.
The guy who recommended...
Rosenstein, the guy who supposedly recommended firing Comey.
Right.
So what is your issue here?
Well, our issue is
I mean, I can give you a list of about 30 prominent Republicans who said Robert Mueller's a totally honorable man.
He is
I
an
trust
honorable
his
man.
judgment completely.
Well, they also
So,
said, but
what
Franklin,
is your
they also
issue?
said that before he appointed about 8 attorneys who gave exclusively donations to Democrat candidates. And now he's appointed one that actually worked for the Clintons. That shows poor judgment at least.
And Mueller's pretty good friends with Comey, isn't he?
They're best friends. They work together. They've worked together for years.
Well, why wouldn't we just get somebody independent in there?
Somebody
Somebody
you guys
that,
want an independent
Well, first
counsel?
off, actually,
That
we
Congress
did.
can do
Actually,
that.
Comey violated the law and leaked a memo just to cause the appointment of a special counsel. So if you want to talk about people's intent and whether it's good intent or criminal intent, Comey had criminal intent to take care of what he wanted done in leaking the memos that he leaked. So far, the only actual evidence of crimes we have are on Loretta Lynch and on Jim Comey.
With all due respect,
And whoever else leaked.
That's not correct.
well, what is correct?
We have evidence of crimes by Michael Flynn.
He wasn't in the Trump administration when he did any of that. Now they've got a new report on Manafort. They're talking about a meeting Manafort had that he had after he left the campaign.
What are they investigating Trump's son-in-law about?
Nothing.
Well, they keep talking about it.
Well, no, they don't. I will have to say, part of the problem is the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Right.
Even David Brooks of the New York Times said the New York Times is wrong at this point,
Right.
that there's no evidence of any of this, and they are doing a disservice to America to keep this reporting. So the problem is they report something, the president ends up, because everything is political in America, he has to respond to it, and then when he responds to it, they report on his response. That's what's going on here. You have a movement to stop any movement of the Trump administration. That's what this is.
Franklin, really and truly, do you think it's time that we stop some of these witch hunt investigations and get down to business, and let's try to work together and bring our country together again?
Okay. Well, I think that the president has created this environment, and he has the ability more than anybody else to change that environment.
What should he do?
Well, look.
Tell me what he should do.
Now, he created
Number
this environment by beating Hillary.
one.
That's how he created
Yeah,
the environment.
I think that's how he did create
He created
the
it by
environment.
beating
But
Hillary.
should he quit?
He should quit tweeting.
Look, no, I don't. I disagree a little bit. I'm not a Twitter person at all. Not even signed up on it.
Right.
I do think it's actually a good thing for the president to have a direct voice to the American people. The problem is, I do agree that somebody needs to say.
Somebody needs to look at these
10.
before he sends them.
Count to 10 before you tweet.
Look.
Or maybe count to 5,000.
Look, the Obama administration had a Twitter feed, okay?
Yeah.
But it wasn't President Obama at 4 o'clock in the morning seeing some story on TV and going, I got to respond to that.
He was asleep.
That's not.
Or golfing.
That's
golfing.
Well, I'll compare
Go ahead.
golfing schedules anytime you choose to.
Right. Go ahead. How about to get something done?
I've said this from day one. Donald Trump was uniquely positioned to be the most effective president in his first year that anybody's seen in decades.
He's already done more in his first year than any president we've had.
He hasn't done anything.
Oh, he's done a lot.
He's done a lot.
That's not true, Franklin. He's signed dozens of bills already. And some of the executive orders, matter of fact, undoing some of the executive orders that Obama did are some of the biggest accomplishments.
I'm saying he could have done a tremendous amount in his first 6 months, and he frittered away the opportunity.
If you look at the stock market, it's been pretty good.
Well, it's been going up for 9 consecutive years.
Can I say something?
What is your point?
Can I say something about the first 6 months of the first year?
Mm-hmm.
If the left would leave him alone, you'd be unbelievable what would happen. You know what? They can't get over it, not winning the election.
They can't.
And they can't. All they want to do is just kill Trump, stop Trump, impeach Trump.
Look.
I mean, it's amazing.
Look, Donald Trump could have done a million things if he chose to do it. But he's made a decision not to do it because he's getting bad advice from some of his
like immigration reform Obama chose not to do?
How about tax reform?
He hasn't even presented a bill.
Fixing to
It's
happen.
moving through Congress. They expect it in the fall.
Okay, if you say so.
He's signed dozens of bills. He's signed dozens of presidential. As a matter of fact, undoing the Paris Accords was a huge accomplishment.
He didn't undo anything yet, John.
He withdrew from them.
He hadn't undone anything.
That's because it didn't do anything in the first place except cost us a bunch of money.
What did Obama do?
Cost us a bunch of money.
He
gave away a bunch.
He won a Nobel Peace Prize.
And he gave away a bunch of money to Iran.
Well, and to Solyndra.
Yeah. What else did he do?
Al Gore got rich.
Well, the green industry produced 15% of the power in the United States, which is more than double the amount it was producing when he took office.
You can't
triple the cost.
You can't buy a lawnmower.
No, it's not. At far lower cost. At far lower cost.
You can't buy a weed eater or a lawnmower now that'll run.
You can say whatever you want.
That's why.
General Motors has had 6 consecutive very profitable years.
Yeah, after a bailout on the taxpayer's back.
Right. And how many jobs were saved by that?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Did they lower their wages? What did they do to make a profit? Different from what they had done in the past.
Well, one, they robbed bondholders because Obama worked that deal out.
You can say whatever you want.
They paid the unions off because Obama worked that deal
GM in business?
No, I think we would have been better. I think people would have come in and taken the assets and moved on. That's what capitalism does.
Think, but you're wrong.
No, we won't know I'm wrong, Franklin, because your people bailed them out, propped them up. Here's the point for you, Franklin. Why doesn't the government bail out every failing business then? If it's
because
so wonderful.
Every failing business doesn't represent 2 million workers.
So in other words, it's not about the principle of
what about Studebaker? We didn't bail out Studebaker.
Franklin, your argument, basically what you're saying is, and now you should be honest enough to admit it. What you just said was you believe that it's okay for the government to pick winners and losers in our economy.
Sometimes I think the damage is so big that the government's the only one who can step in.
Look, John Stossel did a report, for example, Upper East Tennessee, years ago, Levi's plant closed.
Right.
And so all of the news people went up there and they set cameras up on the last day the people walked out of the plant with their pink slips.
Right.
And it was great journalism because it was sad and miserable and their whole lives were over. Well, John Stossel went back 18 months later. Almost all of those people, he interviewed a lot of them. They had not only found new jobs, but they had found better jobs. They had gone back to school, got an education. They were earning more. They were happier. Now, they weren't happy the day the Levi's plant closed,
right?
But it worked out better for them. That's the way an economy works. Venezuela, once again, is a perfect example of a government picking winners and losers. Now everybody's a loser in Venezuela.
John's in love with the Venezuela comparison
because it's the newest socialist experiment.
He never wants to compare it to somebody who's successful, like Norway or Sweden or those places.
They're not successful by our standards, frankly. It's a completely different lifestyle.
Higher wages,
it's
more
a different
benefits.
lifestyle. They also have less freedom. There's all kinds of problems with that, Franklin. We didn't become the leader of the free world by being socialist.
Evidence to back up that statement.
The evidence is 250 years of American dominance in the world.
John lives on a series of myths that goes through his head.
Now, think about that, folks. I'm sitting here saying America's the greatest country in the world, and Franklin is calling that a myth.
What I said
That's
is
your liberal progressivism for you.
That there are these bogeymen out
there
all the time threatening your liberty.
We are the leader of the world, and the world will be a dark place without us.
And your party is presently taking us to the back of the line.
Well, I don't know, Franklin. It looks like a lot of countries respect us a lot more now.
I don't see any evidence to support that.
Well, the Middle East looks a hell of a lot better at this point.
It does, huh?
How
is that exactly?
It is that we have a coalition put together to actually work together on this. More of a coalition than your apologizer-in-chief was ever able to put together.
Okay, we'll see how it works out in the long run.
We will.
What do you think we ought to do about North Korea right now?
I think you can expect to see more economic sanctions on them. I think you'll see more cyber espionage. I don't think you're going to see any military action because it's not feasible and it has horrible risks associated with it.
On that regard, let me read you something posted on Monday by Affinity Magazine, which is a liberal progressive magazine. If you decide to go to North Korea, then you have to respect their laws. Otherwise, you better stay home. Wait until you find out what American police kill people for. So here's a progressive left magazine in America blaming that young man for getting himself beaten to death by the brutal, once again, left-wing communist dictatorship. That's the left in America for you.
Yes, that's right.
Read it for yourself.
Every person on the left thinks just what John says.
Show me the condemnation of that on the left. Show me
I've never even heard of this magazine. Why would I condemn them? I've never heard of them.
Well, I've never heard of them either, Franklin, but I'll condemn them.
This is the problem. John sits in his little cubicle in his house at 3 o'clock in the morning looking at obscure places to get outraged. And the fact is, nobody's ever heard of these people.
Here's what Franklin's saying. John pays attention. And apparently in Franklin's liberal, social progressive mindset, Americans who pay attention are the problem.
All right, we hope you pay attention to Backfire. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire.